Just a real quick reminder before the video starts from Emma to like the video and hit that subscribe button. Thank you. Alright everybody, it's Crypto Anime here today. We are going to be talking about the new series, Dr. Stone. Well, not entirely new, came out in 2019. But, to hop right into it, I've read quite a bit of the series and I've watched quite a bit of the series. And to get into the basics of basics, yes, that's definitely a thing. We're going to start with characters. So there's Senku, Mr. Mad Scientist, and then there's also Taiju, the brawn muscle boy with incredible stamina, endurance, all that good stuff you need to survive in an apocalyptic world like Dr. Stone. There's Yuzuriya, which is the love interest of the character Taiju, and there's also the antagonist, Tsukasa. We have also Kuhaku, who I'm not going to be diving into just quite yet. So, as of right now, that's all I'm going to be mentioning as far as characters go. And I'm going to start from the beginning, which I guess that wasn't technically the beginning. So I'm going to start at the beginning, which starts off with a love interest with Taiju and Yuzuriya. And it goes into this nice little, like, flashback of all these birds being turned to stone. And Taiju finds one, and Yuzuriya finds one. And they both go to take them to a vet to get fixed, which is, like, cute in a sense, I suppose. And, like, who doesn't enjoy a love story, right? Like, it's a love story. Everybody wants to see a nice love story. However, when he goes to confess his love, there's a blinding flash of light, and what follows the light is the human race being turned to stone. Yes, stone. And also swallows. The birds are turned to stone. I'm not sure why it's just those two things that are turned to stone, but that's just the way it is, you know? I mean, there's wolves and lions and monkeys that are just, throwing feces and whatever the hell else they want at these stone statues of humans and probably killing them, but you don't know if they're killing them or not. But, whatever. So, we're gonna, skip forward in the story and start where it starts getting interesting, It's the big beefy boy Taiju waking up from the stone and running to his love interest. Of course, that's the first thing he goes to. It's the person he was trying to confess his love for. That's why he woke up so soon, And it's not entirely shocking by, like, any means, I wouldn't be entirely surprised. I mean, you wake up after being trapped in stone, the first thing you want to do is see that the person you were trying to tell you love is also trapped in stone, or not trapped in stone, but whatever. So he gets to the tree where she was holding on to, where he told her to do, because he's a smart muscle boy. And she's there, but you see a nice little note. It's very meaningful, written or carved onto this tree, and it says, "Come meet me down the river," or something along those lines. Big oaf. And, I mean, who else could have possibly wrote that message? Who else has been introduced to the story at this part? It's Senku, bruh. Like, it's the main protagonist, Senku. He's the mad scientist. Obviously, he's going to be alive and kicking and doing badass scientist stuff at this point. So, the best thing about this is that he knows the exact date and time and everything, because he counted the entire time that he was in stone form. Talk about a major flex on everybody else in the world. It's just these two at this point, but it's still a pretty solid flex. So, we're going to obviously kind of break out of the romance and take us into it's like a training, in a sense, I like to call it. It's Senku and Taiju working hard on a solvent to dissolve the stone with all these chemicals that they get from bats and bat feces, and combining them with alcohol to become nitric acid, I want to say it was, like hydrochloric acid or something along those lines. And they finally get a solvent that starts dissolving the feathers of a bird, and it's incredible. And I think at that point, that's when you really start to learn that science is the main key of this series. Yes, science is the main key. It's the show, boy, it's science. So let's hop into the antagonist, because we're past all the giddy fun stuff. Let's hop into the antagonist, big bad fighter Tsukasa. Big bad fighter, yep, Tsukasa, who can literally one-punch lions. Happened. No other way about it. And there's these two different... At first, you're like, oh, he's going to help him out. But you get introduced to these two very different methods of thinking when it comes to reviving the human race and furthering their evolution. And Senku wants to basically bring everybody back and, like, evolve the populace through science. Obviously, he's intelligent. And Tsukasa is more on the side of only bringing back specific people while basically killing everybody else, because if people come back like adults, they're going to be like fighting over property and there's going to be war again and all this other stuff, which I mean isn't entirely wrong. But you shouldn't just go off and kill everybody. That's not the appropriate way of thinking. And this obviously leads to some pretty severe conflict and finally confrontation between our protagonist and our antagonist, Senku and Tsukasa. So, obviously, the only thing left to do at this point is to kind of split off and go your own ways. And Senku is obviously thinking logically. He wants to try to take something that will take down Tsukasa, which is a good, solid innovation known as gunpowder, because if you have gunpowder, what is he going to do? Like, punch it? Can't punch a bullet, bruh. And it's discovered that, well, it's not discovered. I mean, Tsukasa's not an idiot, and he kind of figures it out and tries to catch up with them, and some like really serious kind of spoilery stuff happens. And I know I'm kind of mentioning a lot about what's happening in the show, but it's like a basis, and there's a lot of other intimate details that happen throughout the series that I'm not trying to mention entirely, so you can actually watch it and get like a better grasp of it. I'm trying to like overview it for you guys. So it's discovered, Tsukasa finds them, bunch of stuff happens. We're gonna jump right into some new characters like Kohaku or Kohaku. I'm not entirely 100% positive how to say her name, but she's like this ninja kind of esque character in my opinion, and she's pretty awesome. You know, she's a quick fighter, awesome person, and Senku comes across her and helps her out and gets introduced, and they're gonna be an awesome pair, you know. And she's like, hey, we should go back over here, and what do you know, there's a freaking village of people. There's a whole little secluded village of people that don't want any outsiders coming into their village, which I mean logically makes sense, I suppose. But how did they become to be a village? I mean, there's not really, I don't know, I haven't watched it all, but they're a village. Like, it's an entire village. That's awesome. I mean, that's so much more like opportunities for this show to get more interesting. Like how it's not just the four main people anymore. It's a whole new society of people, and you meet and are introduced to these new characters that are like quirky and hilarious, like Chrome or Chroma. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not good with names, guys. And he's nuts. Like, he's a nut. He's magic. He's a magician. You know, he's a bad boy magician. Awesome. And guess what? Senku is by default also a magician. He's a badass magician. Come on now. So, I'm not gonna like dive too deep in what happens with the village, or like what happens with Senku and everybody in the village, and I guess Tsukasa or Yuzuriya and Taiju for that matter, because this is just trying to get you guys, not me, I've already watched it, to get you guys to watch this show because it's incredible. Like, everything about it is phenomenal. I can't even lie. I love it. And like, what more could you possibly ask for? You have science. There's some romance aspects. There's combat. There's some pretty epic training. Like, there's layers to this, guys. Like, there's multiple different layers to this. There's a ton of aspects here that lead to a show with so much potential. And in comparison to like other anime that I've seen or manga that I've read, it's like leaps and bounds ahead. Not like, okay, yeah, it's pretty freaking far ahead of a lot of the stuff that I've read. But I mean, to kind of end it like on a positive note, if you guys like science, 100% read this. Like, it makes you interested in the science. Like, you want to learn about it. Obviously, there's a disclaimer not to try any of the stuff that you learn. I mean, obviously, it's a fictional world. However, the science is actually real. So, like, the making alcohol and nitric acid and all that stuff, don't do it. Like, they say it specifically that you shouldn't be attempting to do any of this stuff, which kind of makes it cooler in a sense. Like, you know, it's real. The science is there, and it makes you excited to learn about science. Like, I'd rather read this than read about chemical like bonding in school or college or anything like that. And I want to read more about it. And then on top of that, there's the conflict and all these new characters and the backstories of everything, like what's happening, what's the possibility of happening, who's gonna further society first, or who's gonna take who out, or what kind of new awesome innovations are gonna happen. Like, the last innovation that I came across was huge. I'm not gonna say it because it's awesome, and you gotta figure it out for yourself, man. Like, I'm not gonna blow everything up in this tiny little video. It's 10 minutes. I'm not gonna freaking say everything. Like, watch it, read it, one of the two. Just do one of them. That's all I'm saying. But that's pretty much the extent of my knowledge on the subject. I know I need to finish it, but I want to finish it. And you gotta start it, and you gotta finish it, and then we're gonna talk about it in a video or something, man. Like, let's go. But don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You guys have been awesome. Crypto Anime.